Welcome in, Hawks fan. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. Hawks lose tonight 127-113 to the Portland Trail Blazers, getting swept in the season series against them 2-0 Portland. Obviously, a very frustrating game tonight for a lot of people. A lot of people consider this a bad loss against a Portland team that's probably better than a lot of you think they are, as I hope tonight showed you. But at the same time, a game that the Hawks needed to win, and we're favored to win tonight as well. So we're going to get into all that, what happened, what I'm seeing out there from the team. And, we'll just go into the breakdown. But I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode. If you enjoyed the episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below. Audio listeners, same thing. Leave a rating, leave a review, 5 stars, hopefully, so we can, the outreach of this podcast can reach more people. Also, follow me on X at Bricey_2K, BRICEY_2K to keep up with me there. And yeah, so like I said, we'll dive right into this game. So, Portland is a team that I said this during the game. I said Portland kind of reminds me of Orlando a little bit, because especially the way Orlando's currently constructed. You have Franz Wagner, Paulo Banchero, right? That's your offense pretty much for them. And then you have they're still a good defensive team. If you look at Portland, that's kind of what they are, realistically, if you look at their team. It's pretty much Shaedon Sharpe and Danny Avdija, who's been balling this year. And then you just are hoping to get enough from guys. I got some guys shooting the ball well, and they have some young players that they're really confident in about, going into the future. And I think Portland's going to be a team moving forward for sure. You see the athleticism. You can see what they do. I think Chauncey Billups is building something over there. But in this particular situation for the Hawks, realistically, there were two big factors in tonight's game. Obviously, rebounding was a big issue. And I've already seen some discourse on social. A lot of people are trying to blame Okongwu for it. Again, this is another game like the Houston game where the front court outside of Onyeka Okongwu gave him nothing. He had no help. So, it's just easy to blame him, because if you're someone who doesn't think Okongwu should be the center, you're just going to blame him just because it fits your narrative, right? And I'm not saying he had a great game or anything like that. I'm just saying it's easy to blame him in a game like this, when his matchup, which is Donovan Clingan, only had 7 rebounds tonight. Hawks, when I get into the rebounding numbers a little bit more, you'll see it wasn't Clingan. It wasn't a Clingan who was killing this team tonight. But also shooting. Shooting also was an issue tonight. Hawks only hit 7 threes tonight and shot 21% from downtown. That also was a very big issue. And we're going to start with that first, because this is a common thing that's happened in Hawks games this year when they get down to teams. And some of the good teams like Houston and Detroit have taken advantage of this against them. The Hawks are not a reliable three-point team yet, where they know we're going to get at least this many threes a game consistently. And then either, you could have a bad night like you had tonight, or you're going to have a big night. And so the problem in a lot of these games is the reason why so many teams make comebacks nowadays and why their leads are blown so often is because of the fact that teams can just start raining threes. You hit 8 threes in a quarter, that's 24 points just off threes alone on 8 shots, right? And then if you do anything else from a 2-point perspective, now you're probably hitting over 30, right? And so the issue with the Hawks is in a lot of these games, they are not able to hit threes. And so the problem is that you're having to 2-point. But the issue is that it's a possession game. If you win the possession battle, it really benefits you. And the Hawks have been a team that's tried to win the possession battle in many games this year, and they have. Tonight, they didn't win the possession battle, and that hurt them. And not hitting threes hurts you even more, because when you hit threes, it cuts down how many possessions you need to win a game. Every three you make helps you cut down an extra possession. Where if you are more of a 2-point shooting team, you need more possessions to be able to overcome. And the Hawks could not do that tonight. Outside of Vit Krejci and Trae Young, who hit 6 threes combined. The rest of the team combined for 1 3 made. It's going to be very hard to win against any team in this league if you're shooting that poorly as a team. Especially, like I said, in today's day and age of the NBA. Shooting was a big issue earlier this season for this team. And really, with Niang and LeVert and Mann, it has improved. It has overall gotten better. But it still rears its ugly head for this team where they cannot hit threes. They cannot make a shot from behind the arc. And so it just puts a lot more pressure on their offense to try to generate twos. And then, obviously, you need to be able to create stops, which the Hawks have also struggled with at times, just getting stops so they can get over the hump. And so they have to shoot the ball better. And obviously, a lot of that comes into development. You hope Dyson continues to improve. You hope Rishi continues to improve. You know, he didn't have a great game tonight. You hope Okongwu improves the three. You know, when Jalen gets back, you hope he continues to, try to progress with his three-point shot. Trae is what he probably is, just a three-point shooter. You just hope maybe one year he has a better year from three than the other. You hope LeVert, who has struggled the last few games offensively, gets a shot going. Niang tonight, after having that monster second quarter against Milwaukee last game, comes back this game, and really you get nothing from him. And Terrence Mann, he was someone who was hitting some threes. You really didn't get much from him from that perspective tonight. So it just was overall a huge issue with the team just not being able to get any type of outside scoring, because that's in today's NBA, you need that. And that is an issue, especially because what happens is when the Hawks can't hit threes, now teams can pack the paint. Now teams can take away driving lanes, be in driving, because they're willing to collapse on the paint, because they're like, we'll let you take threes because you're not making them. The Hawks are basically a game-by-game basis team, where if they are not hitting threes, as a defense, you're probably going to start packing it down more. So if they try to cut into the lane, you'll be able to get more turnovers and stop easy pick and rolls or any cuts to the basket. If the Hawks hit threes, that's when this team really gets going, because now you have to defend the three-point line, which creates more spacing and allows the Hawks to make more plays. And that means more cuts like Rishi and Dyson can take advantage of, or a LeVert or a Mann. So that's the first key. The second key tonight was turnovers. Hawks tonight had 19 turnovers. And we've talked about multiple times this year how turnovers can be an issue for this team. If they have a high number of turnovers, it usually doesn't bode well. And the thing about the turnovers, a lot of their high turnover games happen against bad teams. If y'all don't like there's a lot of especially at the beginning of the year against some of those teams, they just had high turnover games. And I don't know if it's a lack of seriousness, taking your opponent serious to make sure you're more careful with the ball. I don't know what that is. But tonight, again, the Hawks had opportunities. I'm watching the game and I'm going a little crazy, because when Portland would turn the ball over, then the Hawks would turn the ball over right back. Or, when they get a fast break, and then they'll still turn the ball over. And it's just like, if you take advantage of those opportunities, the game would have been much more in your favor. But you didn't. The Portland gifted you possessions, and the Hawks did not take advantage of those possessions. And so it made it difficult for the Hawks to overcome when Portland did start to get a bit of a rhythm going in that third quarter, overcome that. And so that was another big issue, was just sloppiness with the basketball. Got to be more, especially against these long athletic teams in the Western Conference, got to be better with the ball. And you can't take all these risky throws, because there was a lot of throws where they were trying to throw it ahead. And there was a guy who was in the middle of that throwing lane, and they tried to think they could get it over him or hopefully get it past him. And the problem with that is those are risky passes to make, because Portland is a very athletic and long team. So I would rather you hold on to the ball and make sure you get a solid possession than try to just, hey, let's see if I can get it up ahead to him. It's not like you're going against a slow team or a non-athletic team. So that also worked in Portland's favor tonight, because they can also run. They can also play a little bit in the fast pace. And that can sometimes lead to an advantage for them. And then also now we get into the rebounding portion of it. So the Hawks tonight had 12 offensive rebounds, 45 total. Blazers at 54, 19 total. I believe the Blazers had 32 second chance points tonight, which is the most the Hawks have given up this season. And let's go into the rebounding battle for Portland. So just for people who have the Onyeka Okongwu, and I'm not saying he had a good game. So this is not a Onyeka had a good game, y'all blame. I'm not saying that. But his matchup was Donovan Clingan, right? 7-footer, right? 7'2" guy. Some of y'all wanted Clingan on this team. After this game, and I've watched Clingan at times, he's not a physical player, which is a weakness because that means you can kind of bully Clingan a little bit, even though he's a bigger player. But here's the thing. Clingan only had 7 points tonight. Now, he had 4 offensive boards, so he was impacting the game in some capacity. But he only had 3 defensive rebounds. He only had 7 rebounds tonight total. So he wasn't just sitting here just eating the rim, right? The people who had the rebounds in this game was Deni Avdija, who had 15 rebounds tonight. He had a triple-double tonight. And we've seen his ascension with the Portland Trail Blazers and how he's making himself into a star player there. He had 15. Remember, a lot of the time, that matchup, you're going probably to your 4/3 or 2 against him. You saw Dyson defend him. You saw Rishi at times. You don't really want Niang, etc., right? So he had 15. Shaedon Sharpe had 10. So, listen. Okongwu didn't have a great game tonight. Portland was able to take advantage of the fact that the Hawks don't have much front court outside of Okongwu. And let me explain why. What Portland started to do in that second half, and I don't know if you guys noticed, they started putting Onyeka in pick and rolls. Because what they were doing was, because the Hawks went small, they're trying to take Okongwu away from the rim. Just because in that situation, now the Hawks have nothing at the rim. Their biggest player, depending if he's on the floor, is Rishi or Dyson Daniels. So now they're saying we're going to take Okongwu away. We're going to put him either into Shaedon Sharpe or Deni Avdija pick and roll. There's no rim protection. And now it allows the other players for Portland to cut, try to get into the rim. Or as Portland did tonight, they were aggressive in attacking, driving, getting down into the paint. And now a lot of the time, Onyeka is having to contest shots, which obviously is normal. But the issue is that the Hawks have no other front court player legitimate in there. So now you see it a lot where Onyeka will contest a shot, and then when it comes to the board, remember, Onyeka just contested the shot. He just went for a block. So he's out of the play in terms of those split seconds in terms of a rebound. So that's on Dyson, Rishi, Terrence Mann, and Georges Niang. And especially when Clingan was on the floor, what they did was now when Okongwu is having to contest or defend someone, Clingan is 7'3", and the best you could maybe put on him is what? Dyson Daniels? Dyson, he's active on the boards, but he's 6'7". I mean, who else? Terrence Mann? 6'4"? And then when they have other bigs in the game, they were just able to take advantage of the Hawks doing that. Because of the fact that Quinn can't trust Gay. Because Gay tonight played 9 minutes. In those 9 minutes, he was minus 12 on the floor. That's an issue. And I've talked about it on this podcast. I've said that the Hawks have to make a decision next year. Everybody's focused on Okongwu, and have to look at who else do they have right now. If Clint was playing, as much as y'all hate Clint, at least Clint could help because he's a big body who will battle, who will be on the boards. And at least if there's anything that Onyeka could do, he'll battle on those boards for you. He can compete on the boards for you. He could help with that, right? Larry Nance, even though he's not a great rebounder, at least Larry Nance, if he can't get you rebounding, he can get you shooting, which they needed tonight. Larry Nance is capable of hitting 4 or 5 threes in a game. Now he got 15 points off threes. Good pick and roll guy. Can pass a little bit. Somebody that you could trust. you can trust, actually, that Quinn does trust. And you don't have none of those players in a game where you're going against a team with size. It's the same thing that happened in the Houston game. Who can you trust outside of Okongwu in that situation? And if Georges Niang isn't scoring, he's kind of useless in that position. So at least it's a situation in this game where if the Hawks were able to hit threes, you could overcome the size because you were hitting threes. But you couldn't overcome the size and you couldn't hit threes. So where's the success going to come from? You see what I'm saying? Like Barlow, I feel like I've been high on Barlow. I've said on this podcast at times that I think he should get more playing time. And I think too, especially because they're pretty much firmly putting Barlow as a center. I've said for the offense, I think Barlow should play. Like I'm one of those guys where if it's a game where Clint just isn't looking good, or you're playing a team that isn't that big, I wouldn't mind seeing Barlow play minutes. I've advocated for that over Clint. But at the same time, you're seeing through his full-time backup center minutes, he's not yet at that point where he can be a full-time rotational NBA center backup. And so when the Hawks make their front court decision next year, it's Jalen Johnson gets back. It's going to fix a lot of the problems because Jalen provides size, he provides athleticism, he provides rebounding, he provides offense, he provides a lot when he's back on the floor next year. That's what the Hawks need. Because as the West they are currently constructed, they have flaws without him that they have to overcome each game. And those flaws have also been responsible for why they've lost games. But once you get past the front court of Onyeka Okongwu and Jalen Johnson, because that's probably going to be your front court next year, it's really that backup 4-5 spot. Who is it going to be? Clint going to walk in free agency. I don't think the Hawks are going to resign Clint Capella. So you got to find you a center. But I've also mentioned you got to figure out who the backup four is going to be. Do you trust Mo Gay enough to become your backup forward? If you do not trust Mo Gay, you have to go get someone. That's why I think a lot of people are looking at that Kings pick that could convey if they make the play-in, because you may be able to get some size, whether that is a 4 or a 5. And if you can do that, now you are getting bigger as a team. And then you can make Gay and Barlow your third option at that position, right? That would probably be what's ideal for the Hawks. But you don't have that luxury right now. And that's a decision you have to wait to make as we get into the season or outside of the season. But as of right now, you don't really have a lot of front court support if Niang's not hitting shots. And Quinn has very limited options of what he has to do. Because here's the thing. He played Richeche down the stretch of the game. He played him a good chunk of the fourth quarter. And Richeche didn't have a good game tonight. So Richeche didn't play well. Niang didn't play well. Barlow didn't play well. Gay didn't play well. What do you have in the front court if you have a game like that? And that's my point. And when I say Barlow didn't play well, I just meant in terms of to the point where Quinn could trust him more. Because realistically, Barlow tonight had 8 points and had 8 rebounds, and he was actually the highest plus minus on the floor in terms of this of players. He had 10 plus minus in the positive. So Barlow didn't play bad tonight, but I think you also saw some stuff that's like, yeah, he has some struggles too. And obviously defensively is one of his biggest struggles. I think he's improved, but it's still a struggle. And I think tonight you saw that. And so, it's one of those things for the Hawks where you have the roster you have the issues you have what you have. And all you can really do is just work around it. And that's really what Quinn's staff and Quinn has had to deal with the last couple of years, is that sometimes these rosters have just glaring holes that he doesn't really have any player he can fit into that spot to have an answer for. All he can do is kind of makeshift it. We'll try this and see if this gets us through this game. When they were at full strength at the beginning of the season, you had Trey, Dyson, Richeche, Hunter, Kongwu, Clint, Jalen Johnson, and I'm missing somebody because Vic Krejci wasn't in the lineup start of the season, but he did eventually get into the lineup. And I think you got Kobe Buffkin as well at one point. And Bogey, right? You lost Jalen. You have no answer at the 4. You could have played Hunter. You traded him away. So now you really don't have an answer at the 4. You tried to get Georges Niang because he can play in the offense. He knows it. He knows Quinn. He knows what he wants. He can shoot. But we know he's not the long-term answer. And you know he can hit. He's hit and miss every game. Either he's hooping or he is not doing much. Gay is a project who Landry Fields has came out and said was not supposed to play for them this year. They were planning to just have him G League and have him continue to work on his game. And then you have to play Barlow because Clint is potentially out for the rest of the regular season as well. We'll see if he's back in postseason. So you have very limited options in terms of what you can do with this team, with rotations, and against certain matchups. That's why a team like Orlando will give the Hawks trouble because their best players are their biggest players. The size will give the Hawks an issue. The Hawks have to overcome it with shooting, not turning the ball over, and good efficient offense. And so I think that's where you kind of have to make your adjustments if you're the Hawks. And you just work with what you have. So it is what it is. Like I said, I'm not happy about the loss, of course, but I also understand where we are. It's never fun, obviously, losing a game like this. No fan wants to lose a game like this. And like I said, this is a game you were favored in it. So, because now you have a Mavericks team with Anthony Davis, another Western Conference team who can play a little bigger, and the Knicks. So you have some tough games coming up before you get Utah. Got to get ready for that. I believe Orlando lost tonight. Nope, they won tonight. They came back. So the Hawks are now at the 8th seed, and Orlando would have the home court in the first play-in game. So they're 2 games ahead of the Heat, who've won 5 in a row. So if the Heat continue to play well and the Hawks do drop the next 2 games, I don't know who would have the tiebreaker since it's 2-2. I think it goes to like Eastern Conference record after that or gets common opponent. And then you also have Chicago, who's also kind of hanging around there. So you're still playing for a lot if you're the Hawks. You're still playing for a lot. You still have a tough situation. You still have tough matchups coming up. So you got to figure it out. You got to figure out how you can go around it. Because, again, you're playing AD. If AD has a 30-20 game, again, you don't have Clint. Can't trust Mo Gay. Can't trust Bar. What can you do? At least, I've said this. If you go and judge a Okongwu, judge him when the bigs around him is better, and then tell me, okay, he sucks. Don't say when he has no bigs, well, he sucks. I mean, it's a team game, brother. If you don't have a certain player that can work with you and have good cohesion within your lineup, that impacts the entire roster. And that's where the Hawks are right now. So they have to get ready for the next game against Dallas. They got to get ready to play. No one's going to feel sorry for them. And they just got to get up and play. So, and let me check something too. And that's tomorrow. I forgot. Hawks play a back-to-back against Dallas tomorrow. So they got to go all the way out there tomorrow, 8:30 game, and get ready for it. So, but overall tonight, Hawks just the 3 biggest issues with this team. High turnovers, can't shoot, couldn't rebound. That basically killed you in this game. If you could at least do 2 of those, you probably would beat Portland, but you didn't. So, got to bounce back. But I think that's about it here on the Believe in Hawks podcast. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, like the video, tell your friends. Available on any audio platform as well. And follow me on X at Brycey_2K. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.